Hello and welcome to the Backdoor Cup podcast. We are sitting here with AFLW superstar Sarah Rowe of Collingwood, Magpies, and formerly of Mayo. She also has dabbled in soccer, so we had a lot to talk about. And now, onto the podcast. Eoghan, back in Dublin.
We're back again. I'm going to start paying rent in here. Going to move in.
The E-flow is racking up a bill.
I think it'd be cheap. Literally, you'd be cheaper getting an apartment.
Yeah, the three of us living in Dublin.
The amount of fines I'm waiting on here for getting to pay it. But yeah, need to get the tag on the go.
We might have to live with McGurn though then, which would be an ordeal, I would say.
Well, he'd make us some nice grub, I'd say.
Absolutely, but I wouldn't be trusting them to leave the bins out, that's for sure.
Nah, definitely not.
But
I'd say your alarm clock in the morning, he mightn't be too happy with that.
No, definitely not. Up at 10 a.m. Dara, if you start showing up, then we'll stop absolutely riffing into you on the podcast. We have a guest coming in, so we're having a little chat here prior to the guest coming in. We're both excited about the guest coming in, I suppose, as well. It's something slightly different from what we have been chatting about so far. So Sarah Rowe is going to join us in about 20 minutes or so. So we're going to have a chat about Sarah here before she comes in.
Here she's the foot of the mat there, making it down all the time.
Absolutely. I'd say it's a sponsored car though, so
she might be grand.
Yeah, she'll be fine then.
She's straight down that right lane. She doesn't have to worry about any flow.
What has you excited to talk to Sarah, and what questions would you like to ask her, do you think?
I suppose the big thing is she's a background in 3 different codes and playing professionally in 2 sports. So it's just operating at that level, and consistently operating at that level, and probably just her being ahead of the game in terms of the whole, yes, the physical development side of things, but then also her own personal development. I suppose resilience, to get to that level, operating at that level, and I suppose resilience to try something different and put herself out there, and be brave enough to sort of make the jump, going from being in a pretty solid spot, playing with Collingwood, and then going to try her hand at soccer again. And probably taking a bit of stick from it too. So that'll be interesting to see her own experience, and I suppose how it differs from playing at GAA. Obviously GAA is going very serious, and it's starting to become a lot more professional and everything, but getting paid and the time that you can give it. But it'll be interesting to see her input, her thoughts on it, and her experiences from it.
It might be easier to jump across codes when you've done it already, maybe. I don't know. She had played soccer with Ireland underage before she gave it up, and was playing obviously football with Mayo to a very high level before she went over to play with Collingwood. It's amazing the success that she's had in each code, because she was in an All-Ireland final with Mayo and then over to Collingwood, where she's got to a grand final there, and they're obviously expecting to go on and win the comp in the next couple of years. They've a very strong team. Then she's playing with Melbourne Victory, comes back, plays with Bohemians, and now she's back to Collingwood again, and we just saw that she was over in Exos training in the States for her pre-season too. Class. So she's almost living your dream, is she? Literally,
that is a younger version of me's dream. I suppose it's maybe not the soccer side of things. I played a couple of years of soccer. I was going, fuck, I'd love to go professional here, but no chance. But yeah, the AFL side of things, that was obviously something. Even when you're younger, you would have saw Marty Clark, Keelan Mooney going over to Collingwood, and that was your first sort of insight to it. And you're going, right, this is class. People from GAA going over there, and then that was the goal for a long time. But I think when I wasn't breaking 5'10", I was going outside the window. But no, that's class. Even the experience of, from an S&C standpoint, going to Axos and seeing what's going on there, and even just again that professional lifestyle, it looks the dream. Yeah, definitely a bit of jealousy there.
And it's not just going over and playing in the AFLW, it's going over there and dominating in it as well.
Yeah.
Getting into team of the weeks and scoring goals, and we're seeing highlights back here. It's amazing that somebody, and it's not just her as well over in the AFLW that's dominating, but a lot of the girls that come over from the GAA absolutely just shoot the lights out when they go out there.
Yeah, it's class. Not too sure what it is. I think they pick up the skills very, very quickly, and anyone you've been listening to, how quickly what they've been saying, and the coaches are almost surprised at how quickly they're picking it up. But I suppose that's a credit to the level that they're playing at home as well, like, and probably the progression of the game, how serious it's getting, and the level that they're operating there, while being amateurs and while managing different jobs and that. So, it's obviously stood by them, like, and no, it's class to see them go over, and I think it makes you enjoy it a wee bit more, just knowing that people are going over and you'd maybe look on the outside being like, they're an underdog kind of going in, but then they're going in and sort of dominating and thriving. Like, it's class to see.
It shows the calibre of athlete that we have in the country in Gaelic games as well.
Big time.
But they do get an awful lot of stick for going over, which is, in my estimation, ridiculous.
That's mad, yeah.
Because they're being offered a professional contract. So you're just training and playing professionally in Australia, where typically the weather is a little bit better than here. And it's probably more of a young person's lifestyle, let's say, over there. So if people say no to that and it's not for them, then I fully respect that. But I would say the vast majority would struggle to say no to it. I'd say you'd struggle to say no to it.
I'd be jumping on it with two hands. Like at the very least, go and give it a go. You probably, every GAA player in the country has at some stage wished that GAA was professional so they could just focus on training, just focus on playing and not having to worry about anything else. And you're going over there, a sport similar enough, obviously, like there's a lot more demands there are differences, but it's probably it's the closest sport you're going to get the football, like. So I think you'd be mad not to go over, especially as a young athlete going over, experiencing a new way of life, being in a professional setup, and say you're only there for, what is it, usually a 2-year contract you're getting initially. You're going there for 2 years, trying your hand at it, like what you're going to learn and about training and yourself physically, but then even just about yourself personally in that new environment. And you bring that back home, and worst case scenario, you're going to end up in the exact same position that you were in, coming home, playing for the county probably, but having 2 years of professional experience under your belt. Like, that's only going to drive the standards within the county even more and drive your own personal standards even more, and you probably get even more out of your own playing career from that. Like, so, like, it's a win-win. Yes, maybe you're away from family and all the rest of it. That's probably a tough thing, but I'm sure you're going to make friends. But
that's everybody that goes out there. And I know Sarah's big on reaching her potential. She always talks about that and how she aspires to do that in everything that she does. Sometimes chasing many different things in different areas, but sometimes there's crossover. And I know from my conversation with Ray Connellan last year, he said that it's almost impossible to go out there and not improve athletically because of the resources at your disposal, as well as the fact that you're training professionally, but then you have so much more free time now because you don't have a job. Yeah. So, like, as Paris and Julie said to me, if they go into the facility with the Swans, they feel guilty if they don't do the recovery every single day to a T. Like, they don't go swim, sauna, dip, pool, everything. So much so that some of the staff at the Swans are saying, do you have a home to go to? You're always here. But I think that's a common thing with a lot of the GAA player or the Gaelic footballers that go out there, is because they don't have the resources here, they're even more appreciative of them when they go out there.
Yeah, 100%. Makes sense too. Like, and probably a lot of players are doing that sort of stuff here on top of a job, on top of study. And yeah, like, if you're getting an extra couple of hours a day and you can go and you're not having to cram it in like 8-9 o'clock at night and then you're going home to get dinner and then go to bed, like, you have that bit of freedom. Just even that schedule of being up in the morning, going doing it, and then having probably the back end of your day free. I know maybe AFLW, they might train in the afternoons and stuff as well, but yeah, like, if you have the facilities there, like, you're making full advantage of them. Like, you're spoiled for choice nearly. But I suppose when you look at some of the facilities in Ireland too, like, and what players are used to when they go over there, you can imagine they're like a child at Christmas, being like, this is home here for a couple of years. Like, that's I'd love to experience that.
And from my chat with Ian Reeves, who's out there working in the NRL, he said the same thing in regards to, he used to work with the GPA, and he said one of the things that they were focused on with the Rabbitohs in the last couple of years with him was gratitude and humility, because he said that a lot of the players that are there, they almost just expect that they're given all these resources and that they go into these world-class facilities and they get world-class coaching. So they're not as appreciative as maybe the athletes back here, because it's not available back here.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I suppose that's the beauty of having someone from the outside or someone from different backgrounds in that sort of setup, where it isn't the norm and they've had maybe an eye opener, or they've had a different experience coming up where it's like, right, you don't realise how lucky you are. Like even I remember my dad saying like when he was comparing, like he's obviously from Tyrone and he was in like club setups in Tyrone and the difference between there and Antrim. He was even trying to say to some of the boys there, I was like, lads, you just don't know how good you have it here. Like when he was coming down the our pitch and we've 2 change rooms, but yes, with 2 nice pitches, but with 2 change rooms and there's trees going out of the ceiling. Like there's no gym, there's barely working water. Like, and then you're going down to other places and they have indoor warm up areas and full S&C gyms and all the rest of it. And you're kind of going, fuck, if only. Like so, yeah. I suppose you don't know what you don't know. Like if you're growing up in a certain area and that's normal to you. Like, I suppose if you went a month or 2 without it, you'd know all about it. Like,
and they have those resources because it's a business over there, whereas the GAA isn't a business. But the GAA does make money as an entity, like, and it is focused on trying to get participation levels and viewing figures up. Maybe for more, well, not for more. We can't be above any other sports or think we're above any other sports, but there is a real focus on community, which there is abroad as well, but obviously not to the same degree as there is in the GAA because you play for your parish, you play for where you're from. But one thing that they get right in Australia that I'm interested to ask Sarah about is branding and marketing of the sport.
Yeah.
They have podcast studios in the facilities.
Yeah.
And the players on the team have their own podcast where they talk about what's going on round to round. And they're pushing the players to go and do that.
Yeah.
Because they know that an athletic career is short-lived and you can only maximize your return out of it so much in that short time frame. That's the complete opposite to over here.
It's mad. Yeah. And it's class to see as well because like I suppose that's when you're even today, like even you're going on the YouTube and you're trying to find something of someone training or some sort of professional setup, like you can see a bit of rugby, you can AFL, like they do it so well. Like every week, like I'd follow Collingwood, Sydney Swans, like just even the AFL's like Instagram page. There's so many videos of players and so much access to players, and you get to see behind the scenes. You see them talking through what they're doing. You see what they're eating. You see their whole setup, and it's just like even in soccer too, like the All or Nothing or the Man City one that's just out there on Netflix. Like if they're so serious and such a massive business, then they're letting people do that. Like I don't know why we can't like take the shackles off a wee bit and let people in a wee bit more, like, because as we've said, you know, there's not it's not massively different than what you're doing. Yes, there's levels to it, but when you see kids run on the pitch after a game, going up to a certain player, looking at a pair of gloves or looking at a signature or whatever, it's like you can imagine how much more of those kids. I'm saying kids, I'm fucking 25 now. I want to see more of it, like, but you can see how many more, like how many of those people want to see an insight into the lives GA players, and I think that, as you say, the big thing is like right, getting more people playing, getting more people watching. If they're more bought into the journey behind the player getting to that top level, like they're gonna be more invested in watching them and seeing the work that goes in. They're gonna want to go and watch them. They're gonna want to go and see them, and it's only gonna promote the sport big time. Like.
And you're fighting for attention these days.
Yeah,
like especially online, and all of these documentaries or sports documentaries that have been coming out, they've got people interested in sports that they weren't interested in before.
Like F1, I'd never watched F1 until actually I remember Paula was chatting about it, and I was like, I'm not watching F1, like it's boring. Then I watched the show and I was like, this is fucking class. Don't get me wrong, haven't sat and watched the full Grand Prix, like, but the show's unbelievable, seeing what goes on.
But it feels like nobody used to watch F1.
Yeah.
And then the show came out. Now it seems everybody's watching it.
Big time. But
they're doing the same thing in like short docu-series in Australia. They do it for rugby league. They do it for AFL as well.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to do if you're open, because I've seen clips with the Swans and Shane Lahan being the S&C coach there, the head of performance. Athletic development, I think, is the title he prefers. But they just mic'd them up and just said, go coach everybody.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't change anything.
Yeah. That's class. Even those mic'd up sessions, like where they're sticking on a player and they're running about, like some of them are brilliant. Like,
yeah, I think I've seen Sarah doing one of those for Collingwood as well. But like, we all think that we have the answer, I suppose, in the GAA a little bit, and that we're giving away too much. Like, I remember one of the first podcasts when you said, "Oh, I didn't say what I was going to say there because I didn't want to give too much away. And then Dara was like, what were you going to say? He said, that when I'm trying to get, or I tried to get forward the odd time. And then Dara was like, sure.
Everyone's fucking doing that.
Are you the first cornerback that tries to get up the field?
Madness, I know. But that's even that's drilled into me, like, to be like, oh, don't say too much and be careful what you're saying and all that. And then, fuck me, like.
But that's what we're trying to change. And that's why we're so grateful to get Sarah on, because she's built such a strong personal brand, and she's got to have had haters or to have like criticism over the course of that. But has it furthered like engagement in the women's game? We can't say definitely, but like probably, I'd say.
Definitely had an impact. Like if you're not seeing something on social media, you're probably not going to be as invested in it. Like the more that you're seeing someone going over, making the move, thriving in that sport, seeing their profile online, you're going to be more likely to. The first couple of times you see something, you might not take it in, but the more and more you see that, the more chance you have of actually going and seeing it. It's like, right, this keeps on popping up, and then taking interest in it. Like so, yeah, like I'm sure it has had some sort of impact, or I'm sure there's girls across the country, young girls across the country, see someone like that and see that as a role model, and they're like, right, like this girl's thriving here, and they're gonna take a leaf out of her book, like, and try and, I suppose, implement things that she's done. And again, it comes back to that idea of access. Like, you see certain like players at the top of their game, you have no access to them, you don't know what they're doing, and I'm sure they could say one or two things that could have a massive impact on a younger player's career, and how they decide to apply themselves to their career. Like, so
it paves a path for the younger players as well, because they can see it happening 100%. To somebody that's from the same background. And like, I remember having the conversation with Paris McCarthy, and she said when she was 18 years old, the plan is to go and play in the AFLW.
Class.
Now, the other girls had been playing there prior to that, but would she have even known about the AFLW if it weren't for Cora Staunton and Sarah Rowe, all these girls going out first?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm excited to have her in. Yeah. I think you're excited to have her in as well. So on to the podcast. Sarah Rowe, we were talking about you.
Because I was late.
No, we were just it's the topic of the podcast, I suppose. So how are you doing?
I'm good. Just home for a couple of days, so it's always great to be back in Ireland.
Not like you to be late.
I'm normally one of those people who is just on time. This time I was an hour and a half late, and I'm going to apologise because my time is definitely not more precious than yours.
Appreciate it. We didn't disclose that you were an hour and a half late, actually, but
it's actually shocking.
Isn't even here.
Dan McGurn hasn't been here for 4 episodes, so like.
So he's meant to be here every week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And he's no show. That's worse. Yeah, surely.
Look, we can appreciate it when he has games coming up, big games coming up, and he's coming back from injury. But we're not talking about injuries today. We're talking about you. So, what's it like being back in Ireland, and what's the plan? Like, pre-season starts this month or next month?
Yeah, this month. It's always great to be back in Ireland. I think that every year before the season starts, I just get this need to go home to kind of like refresh, because you're over there and you take everything so seriously. And once the season starts, it's like all consuming. Obviously, the same as GAA. It's like all you can think about. And you kind of need that perspective shift going into a season so that you go in fresh minded. So for me, I'm like, I need to come back, see family, stay grounded, and kind of like connect with home. And that's a really important thing that I need to do. Like every couple of months, I find being so far away from family that I just need to get home. So it's great to get that time with mum and dad and everyone else. And watch a few of the GAA games.
Eoghan was saying in our little prep session, he thinks it'd be mad for somebody to say no and not go to Australia for the opportunities that you girls have been given. Why would you not go? Is that the main reason? Is it the family aspect and what you miss about home?
Yeah, I think like looking from the outside in, it's absolutely amazing for sure. But there's complexities with it as well, because it's like you could live 6 months of the year in Australia, 6 months in Ireland. So you're getting kind of no consistency wherever you go. So it's a bit of like, can be a transient lifestyle. Or else you can decide to live in Australia for 12 months of the year. And when you do that, then you're kind of fully investing into the culture in Australia. There's complexities around our work and visas and stuff like that. So we can kind of do our work with Collingwood, say, and then working outside that, you're always kind of working around visas, and it kind of becomes complicated. So it's probably the best option is probably to do 6 months here, 6 months there, but like you've no consistency anywhere you go. Essentially, no home in ways.
Yeah.
That
6 months idea.
Yeah.
Is the deciding factor for me? Is that summer or winter? Are you getting 2 winters? Are you getting 2
Getting
summers?
2 winters now.
2
It
winters.
used to be that you're
Oh.
getting 2 summers, and I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, great.
And now it's like we're getting 2 winters because of the season shift. But I think the biggest thing is being away from family. What I find is that when things go wrong in the season, or, you know, you're faced with challenges in sport, which we are every single day, it's like your resilience isn't always as quick to respond, or it kind of takes you longer to get over something, because normally when I'm at home, it's like I go home and speak to mum and dad, and you know, the problem is essentially halved with speaking to your family who completely understand you, your intentions and everything you're trying to put out there. Whereas when you're over in another country on your own, essentially, while you're in a team of people, doesn't mean that you always feel understood, being an Irish in Australia. So there's definitely levels of complexity with it. But I think, and to answer your question, why would people not take the opportunity? I do think people would be crazy not to take the opportunity, but I completely understand the family aspect. That's such a big part of Irish culture and what we're about and our values. And then also the GAA, obviously, it's a game that we all love, the community feeling, the human touch of Gaelic football, you know, sometimes can be lost in professional sport. So you really miss that element. And I think, yeah, Irish people in general, I really miss, even though there's so many of them out in Australia at this point now, you probably don't have as much access to them. It's not your day to day. You're not going into the supermarket and meeting an Irish person. So that there's really small things you miss. But I think in terms of the professional environment, what AFL, the way they run the competition, is absolutely incredible. And there's lots we could take home from that.
Move to Sydney and into Coogee and you won't see an Australian person. Be just Irish people.
I actually know more Irish people than I do Australian people in that village. Like, it's crazy. You walk down the street and you're like, am I in Galway?
Yeah,
Maybe even?
maybe Galway. Yeah. It's definitely Coachees as well, so it was easy for me to fit in. It sounds like, although you're not feeling as understood really in Australia, you still go through the trials and tribulations of being an athlete, same as you would at home. Do you think you've developed thicker skin as a result of going through those opportunities for resilience and not having the same network around you as you do here?
Yeah, 100%. There's definitely lonely days over there, a lonely feeling maybe. But I would say that I feel like I'm way stronger, and I feel like things come up in team environments and I'm like, this is just a part of it. Like, we got to ride the waves of this, and we know that when things pop up that it's like, just got to get over it. You got to get over things really quickly in sport, obviously, because sport waits for no one. So I do find, and I really enjoy the side of Australia that it is perspective shifting when you meet people who actually have like very different views to you. And you're like, what is that? Why do you do it like that? Or like we talked about the work-life balance in Australia versus Ireland, probably work hard, play hard. It's like, do you say that the work-life balance would we say if you're not working all the time, are you lazy? No, maybe you just have a better balance. Like, they prioritize health. They get up early in the morning and exercise, and then we do things differently here. So it's like, who's right, who's wrong? But like, for me, that's good, because like I feel like I'm all rounded, becoming a better person, and always kind of learning, meeting new people all the time from different cultures. It's really, that side of things is really interesting. Yeah, I think it's made me a better person. Has
it made you more serious? Because I know you've said to me before in the past that somebody close to home said that you're gone very serious. Have you lost an element of your personality, do you think, out there? Sorry to bring it up.
I came home from Australia, and it was a season that I probably didn't enjoy, because every season isn't the same. It was one of those seasons where I didn't really enjoy it that much, and I came home and my mum was like, Lovey, you've lost your sense of humour. And I was like, what? I was like, what does she mean? This is confronting. And she was just like, she got too serious. And I was like, am I? I was like, well, in Australia, they think I'm full-time laugh. So I was like, I don't know where this is coming from. But I do think in ways professional sport, like, it's our job. Like, we have to perform. Like, there's a level of pressure with that. And like, if I don't perform, I'm letting the coach then. The coach's job then is like, he's under so much pressure. Like, obviously the same is true in GAA and all that stuff. But like, there's such a high expectation of like how we need to deliver and like how we need to present ourselves on a day-to-day basis. We're, a part of a team and we're part of a brand of Collingwood, and that's, bigger than an individual itself. So it's like you need to tick a certain amount of boxes every week. So you feel like you have like so many tasks to get through during the week. It sounds stupid, but there's really small things that come up every week. And yeah, there's a pressure side to that makes you probably a bit more serious. But if you lose the fun in it, then it's like, what are you doing it for? And then you're like, am I just doing this because it's my job? No, I love sport and I'm doing it because it's sport.
Yeah. That's so when you were making that shift from GAA, obviously you would have put a lot into your training and a lot into your prep for that. Obviously going into a professional sport then, it's going to be a step up, it's going to be more intense. Was that shift hard initially? Did it get easier? Do you still sort of battle with that? Or how do you find that? Like, do you find if you come home right now, it'd be easier to come home and play for the county? Or it's more of a challenge in Australia, if that makes sense?
Yeah, there would be... I didn't find the shift that hard when I went out. I was like, this is amazing. Like, everything is on my doorstep. Like, your physio's there, your doctor's there, your psychologist, your nutrition, our chef in there to cook our meals. Like, there's a guy who cleans our boots. Like, it's, you're like, is this for real? And I'm thinking, like, imagine we had this in the GAA. Like, what would it look like then? What would Ireland be? How would that appeal to like the girls to come back, and like how would that be? But when you come back to the GAA, and then what happens is it's not that you really appreciate the GAA for what it is, but you feel like you can't go without all these things that you've had in AFL. So it's like you're like, well, I need to tick all the boxes. So like, I work very closely with the sports psychologist, but we always talk about like your recipe for success and like what it looks like on a weekly basis for you to perform what needs to be done in that week. And if I was to look at my recipe for success in Australia, I would just straight away come home to Ireland and go, I need my recipe for success in Ireland, because, as an individual, your responsibility is your own performance. But then I'd be like, instead of having it all there, you obviously have to pay for it. You obviously have to travel for it. And you obviously have to find really good people. So if you're looking for a psychologist, you might have a really good one in Cork. You could ring them, obviously, but like physio, doctor, nutritionist, like it's not all as like readily available there on your doorstep. So it feels like hard, but it's not hard on the scheme of things. It's not hard, but it's like and detail and information. You get so much of it in AFL as well. So much so that like you always feel like you've homework to do nearly. But like, if you were playing against an opposition, you want to clip on another team or another player, like you can get it like that. And that information, if I was to come home, say, and play GA, I'd be seeking that information. Yeah. But I might be able to find it. And then that would probably frustrate me, get inside my head. Then I'd probably just be too far gone. When you go too far the other way, when you're just like focusing on something that, yeah, it's important to tick all the boxes, but now you're so far inside your head that you're not going to perform. Yeah. So it's that kind of like healthy flexibility and kind of being like, this is the way it is. I wanted to get better in GA or whatever, and this is the way this is, and kind of accepting of that. But it's hard to accept that standard as well when you're like, it can be better.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's similar to what Connor said about the detail, about when he's being told by a coach, we're going to press. Connor Sweeney is saying,
exactly,
when are we going to press?
Yeah.
Are we pressing the kick out? Are we pressing it when they get a free kick, etc.? Whereas there's a lot unsaid in Ireland, in the GA, especially in terms of direction.
It's instinct, and that's the magic of it though as well, isn't it? Because it's like, that's what my coach said. He was like, I watch GA and everyone seems to have so much freedom. And I'm like, they do have freedom. Whereas we don't have that much freedom in AFL.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's very like, you stay in your own lane. This is the structure. And they want you to play within the confines of that. And bring your natural flair. But at the same time, like, there's a structure and we got to keep to it.
Is that a challenge for you? Like, say, if you were playing at home, you'd probably... Well, naturally, like you're obviously a confident player. You'd back yourself a lot more. Like, do you find it hard to back yourself that bit more and just kind of go off the cuff when you're playing AFL compared to maybe playing at home? Do you have to sort of rein yourself in a wee bit rather than trying to just go for it? And
because like I remember the first couple of years that I was there, like I used to just see space and run into it.
Yeah.
And I ran into someone else's position, and like I hadn't a clue that I was doing the wrong thing. But like the girls would be pretty pissed off at me after the game. It's not keeping to structure, like, you know, there's a system here, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That worked. We got a goal or something happened from that. But no, I was in the wrong position. So I'm like, yeah, but still, win's a win. You know what I mean? But I was against what we're trying to do. So like, that's not good, you know? So I find that really hard to get my head around. But now I really understand it. And I'm consistently trying to educate myself further on the game though, and like all the small things. And just like, if when you do something, like especially as an Irish player coming out who doesn't know the game, you're like, I need to be told when I do something well, and I need to be told when I do something wrong, because both ways I still don't know. Yeah. Like you never know what's right and wrong, so you're just doing. So yeah, it can be very confusing at the start, I think. And there's so like, while it looks like a messy game, like it's technical, tactical, like there's a lot of tactics that go into it, and it's an organised mess.
Just on that, because a lot of pundits and coaches are worried that as GAA becomes more systemised, we might lose some of those flair players. Mm-hmm. Are there still the same amount of flair players in the AFLW? Mm. Or do they lose some of that because they're playing in such a structured manner? Mm. Is there freedom within the structure at all?
There is freedom within the structure, yeah, but it also depends on the team that you're playing for, because every team kind of plays a different style of football. Like we have a new coach this year now, so we'll change our game plan and this year, so things will be different for us. And within that, hopefully there's more freedom to play, which is what we're all after. Because like, yeah, you're like, if you're inside your head in the game and you're thinking too much, you don't really bring that flair. So I would say that some teams have it and some teams are very structured. You can nearly predict what they're going to do next. But yeah, there is an element of you can't bring it, but sometimes you can get caught inside your head.
Just to bring you back to what you said about the availability of resources, we were speaking beforehand about how, talking to Julie in Paris over in the Swans, they seem to be real overawed by everything at their disposal. And then Ian Reeves saying that in his work with the Rabbitohs in the NRL, he's really focused on helping the younger players to become a little bit more humble and a little bit more grateful for what they have.
Yeah.
Do you see that the Irish players that go over to the AFL are even more grateful for everything that's available to them because they haven't got it, the GAA?
Yeah, well, it is. It's perspective. Again, like, it's like we're coming from an environment where, and that's why, like, with our coach coming to Ireland, I'm like, let's have a look at our club changing rooms. Like, see how we operate, and like how we see a problem, we get over it, we bounce back. And like, even like, you know, injuries in GAA, it's kind of like, are you being soft or are you injured? You know what I mean?
For sure.
Well,
but in Australia, like I remember having like a tweak in my quad, and I was like, I'm not saying anything to anyone because it's so soft for me to pull out. But then I tore my quad, and everyone was like, when did you feel that? And I was like, oh, like about 6 weeks ago or something. And they were like, well, like, why didn't you say it? And I was like, no, like, because I thought you wouldn't have bought into it, kind of thing. They're like, for me then, that's like, they're like, we need to educate you. That's unprofessional. That's poor standards by you. And I'm like, oh, I never looked at it like that. But yeah, that's fair enough. Like, when you think about it like that, it is. So yeah, it's I would say the Irish ways are very grateful for what we get, like, but we adapt into the culture of it pretty quickly, I think. But yeah, to remain humble in that as well.
Are a lot of you that have gone out there very detail oriented? Because it seems you're quite detail oriented, and that may be a factor in you succeeding across multiple codes. Is that a common characteristic for a lot of the successful players that have gone out?
When you talk about personality profiling, we do a bit of that in football, which in a lot of professional environments, they do it because they're trying to character check people as well, and kind of go, where will these players be challenged? What are the characteristics that they bring? How do we communicate with them? maybe where their blind spots, like all those things. So like if I look at my profile, like I'm a red yellow, so like I'm kind of like win at all cost in my head, and then kind of like extroverted. So I actually lack on the detail. I actually work really hard at the detail because I know that what was or has been my weakness. So I am now detail orientated, but I don't think I was before. So that's been something I've definitely worked on. But in terms of, I've always been a really hard worker, definitely. And I'd be like, if you train harder, you'll get better, and eventually it will show, you know. But like then there's a line with that, isn't it? Like you hear so many people who overtrain in those situations or go too far the other side. It's always getting that balance.
So then if you look across, well, within the dressing room at like Aisling, Murren, and then Niamh and Emer playing in other teams, but you've played with them previously, and Cora previously being there as well.
Yeah.
What are the common characteristics of all you girls, do you think?
I would say Irish people in general, like we buy in and we know how to work hard. We're quite resilient and we get on with it. Like, and I would say that that's a common theme across the whole lot of us. We don't complain and we just get on with it. Put the head down, work, show, like everything is about your actions, not your words. And I would say that that's, if when I think about all those girls, that's what resonates for me.
What would be your advice to any younger players then going out now? Just get on with it.
It would be soak it all up though as well. It's like you have to embrace the humility of it, because it's like at the start, like it's the word I use to describe is embarrassing, because you're not good. You are not good at the game. And you think because you've come from an environment where you were good at a sport, be it Gaelic, soccer, basketball, whatever it is, and you're used to being, most of the girls who've come out there have been, I suppose, stars in their team, and they come out to Australia and they're like, I'll just be good because I've always been good. And you're actually really not. And you've so much to learn and you have to continue to learn. But that's for any sports person. Like if I was to go back playing Gaelic football now, I'd probably view it a different way and go, yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks, it'd take me a bit of time, I reckon, to transition back. But I would be like, I have so much to learn still. Like it's so much to learn. And I think if you keep that mindset, you'll always get better.
Is that what you'd change then if you were to come back playing Gaelic football, and that's what you would bring from the lessons you've learned in Australia back to the GAA, is that kind of inquisitive nature, always be questioning, always trying to be better and asking questions?
Yeah, it would. It would be the curiosity piece and kind of like, you know, you can't just take advice from everyone because not everyone has your best interest at heart, do you know? But you have to be able to go, there's people out there who are really trying to help me and I need to listen and I need to buy in and kind of like, I feel like I like to be creative, I suppose, with my training and go, what is it that other sports do that we don't do? So like myself and another girl at Collingwood, like worked with the jiu-jitsu coach for a couple of weeks in the off season just to like tackle technique stuff. And then like our coach now who's coaching with us he worked with ballerinas. So he was all about like our toe movements, like the small intricate details of things that you would never think of. Or then you look at soccer players and we talk about like how they find space and how they move in space and like how you can learn things from other sports if you kind of like get creative about it, keeps things exciting. We do some gymnastics. Like there's so many different levels and different places you can go. We went to America for a training camp, which was class. We went to Exos for 9 of us and, you know, met a couple of NFL players and like to understand what they do and how they apply their training. And maybe we are overtraining and they're kind of saying, why are you running so much? Like, why are you doing that? Like you're training way too hard. But the levels of, there's so many elements to AFL that you have to prepare for because of the contact element too. But yeah, so curious minded and I suppose always being a student, basically. I know it's cliche, but like it really is. Once you start thinking you start to know it all, like you're down a slippery slope.
I was going to say, you mentioned they're trying so many different things, but I think you've already been doing that, playing so many different codes growing up. Would you have said that was your advantage then going into a new sport, that you'd played football, you played soccer, and you're going into the AFL then? That made that transition a wee bit easier for you?
Yeah, I think to be able to adapt and to know that going from soccer to Gaelic to AFL, back to Gaelic or back to soccer. Each time you go, you know there's a period that's so hard and that, again, where you're so bad and everything is going wrong. Your feet don't move the same way. Your coordination is off. All these things. And you're like, am I ever going to be good again? Like, am I ever going to feel natural in what I'm doing? And I think to know, if more so about your mind here than it is your body, but to know that it's okay to sit in that space and that you're going to come out the other end with being persistent and consistent with it. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's the mindset shift where with the AFL, I was like, I'll eventually get good. Like, and I kind of had that. It's probably the belief to know that you can do it. Really. But I think, yeah, there's a few ways of looking at the soccer, the Gaelic, the AFL thing. One party you looks at it and goes, just pick one. Like, just focus on one. But the other part of it goes, is that me? Is that my personality? Probably not. Like, I actually love the change and the challenge. And like this year, I've decided to focus on AFL for the year. And like, that's been really uncomfortable for me, which to most people, they'd say, it's great. You took like a couple of months off. I was like, I didn't take a couple of months off, but I sat in that space where my mind is normally in another sport. But that challenged me a lot. But I think I'll come out the other side of that as well. And with some new learnings, I just don't know exactly what they are yet.
In what way did it challenge you? Just in that you're so used to being occupied with the sport, going from one and the another and just keeping yourself busy, or
needed more information, needed more new stimulation, and was like doing so much preparation with no application. So doing so much running, so much gym, so much like detailed stuff of like, I worked with a coach, his name is Dean Benton. He's strength and conditioning coach, but he worked with the Brumbies, with the English rugby team, Elise Perry, the cricketer, and he is just different approach to training completely. Because I was like, I need something new now. So we went and he coached me for 4 months, and we just did like acceleration, deceleration, like very like the small things. And I was like, he was even driving me crazy because he was thinking about things in a different way than I've ever thought about things. And I was like, how am I going to trust this? I can't see results. When I'm going to see results, I'm going to see what 0.1 of a second result here or what. So it was like those couple of months really challenged me because I was like, I can't see improvements, but I was working really hard. So we'll see if I see improvements.
Maybe this is the wrong word, but it sounds like you're almost addicted to the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that because you've got so much out of it over the years? And when do you think that stops, or does it ever stop?
Adrenaline junkie, yeah. I like when it's hard. And like, that's why my coach would know with me that he would generally tell me, like, if I got stepped in training, which I did a few weeks ago, and he said to me, Rowe, are your legs sore? And I was like, no, they're actually not. But like, he knows that would get a reaction out of me and that I would perform better then because he's challenged me. Whereas some people, I suppose, need to be always fed really good stuff and they can perform off that. Of course, you need a level of that. It's to know if you've built the relationship, the trust, and you know they truly believe in you and they challenge you. Like, I'll respond really well to that sort of coaching. But like, different coaches work for different people. But I would say, yeah, I like to be challenged. It doesn't mean that like day to day with being challenged that you don't struggle. And you struggle the whole way through it, really. But you always generally come out the other side. And you kind of have to back your mental strength.
You revel in the struggle almost a little bit. Like you know you're going to struggle, but you know that you're becoming stronger as a result almost.
Yeah, and like, I hate any time I feel like I'm being soft on myself. Like, I know that I'm not in a good state of mind then. And then I'm like, complacency is going to catch me. Like, I'm very aware of complacency. But you don't see it. You just feel it and it creeps up on you. It's the small little habits that you start to drop and you have to keep going back to the drawing board. But you have to be so accountable to yourself. The small things really matter.
Is that learned through your youth playing both soccer and GAA, or maybe it's learned outside of sport?
Is that learned? I would say, yeah, over time I've learned about what, in terms of like...
That complacency will get you and you notice when maybe...
if you have a
You're
couple of good
overstepping the line.
performances in a row and you start to kind of give yourself a pat on the back, that's when you're in trouble. Because but like it's like I think the self-awareness, I'm actually aware of when it's happening, and I'm like, get out of this. You know that you've already relaxed, even though like I might keep going back to the drawing board, but like in my mind I'm like, I get too relaxed about things.
Have you a solution? Have you found the solution for that yet? Or what sort of tools do you have that you would go through there?
It's all about going back to the process for me. It's like I need to stop being outcome driven, because that's when you start going like, I've played well, and then you're like, I need to keep playing well, but you think about playing well versus being like, I forgot to make a good breakfast this morning. You know what I mean? Or like something like that. You're thinking about the game before you're thinking about the Monday. So I'm like, it needs to go back to day-to-day stuff. And like it's the same when us as a team, when we don't perform, it's like, we have to win next week. I'm like, oh no, we have to do Monday really well. Like we have to keep going back to that. Or we have to get up with a good, literally take your vitamins in the morning. And like that starts your day off. It's so for me, like, it's all about being accountable to yourself.
We've talked about your transitions and we've talked about how you apply yourself in terms of your performance. You haven't once really mentioned anybody else's opinions at all. And that's probably a testament to how strong-willed you are and how focused you are solely on achieving success. Mm-hmm. Is that how you deal with, say, and block out the haters, so to speak?
So you're talking about opinions as in opinions of my people in my circle, in my team, or opinions
people
of the
not
outside?
in your circle.
People on the outside, so like spectators or
media.
Yeah. That was an interesting one with the soccer, definitely, because there was an awful lot of, like, I was getting a lot of messages and comments and stuff. And I was like, I just couldn't understand because I'm so, I don't know if you guys are the same. I think every individual is like this. The most important life that you live is your own. So like you're inside your own head essentially all the time. So I'm like, I actually don't care really about other people's lives. Like I care about my family and that they're happy and the people close to me. But outside of that, like I'm actually just not concerned. So I can't understand if someone else was concerned about mine. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's just, but I just didn't, like I did remember feeling a level of pressure with the soccer thing. And I remember that being kind of like outside noise coming in. Like I could feel that coming in. But I remember being like, I need to just like, the only thing I can control is like myself, how I respond to it. And I wasn't really taken into like, I think with that, say the soccer thing, going back, signing with Melbourne Victory, coming to Bows, like all in ways like controversial moves. People are like, why are you doing that? And I was like, this is all very thought out. This is planned for months. Like I'd put a lot of steps towards that. And everyone's like, well, you didn't make the World Cup squad. And I'm like, and that's okay. That is okay. I didn't make it. I was like, but like the only thing that if I was to react to that is like, the only thing I'd be projecting is my ego and my pride. And I think it's better to say like, you tried, you didn't succeed, but you tried. So like for me, I was like, I don't really care. You know, I actually don't. And I learned so much from that experience and got so much out of it. And for me, I was like, I love soccer. I love the game. And like that for me, what I learned in that time and how hard that was, you know, I take with me for the rest of my career. So I'm like, take the risk. Like for anyone, I'm like, go out and do something different. Like don't like take the challenge, you know. So that's the way I live my life in general.
You just mentioned there before we went down that, you were chatting about being process driven as well. Like that probably made it a lot easier for you to attach. I'm sure you probably wanted to go on and you're obviously success. You want to achieve as much as you can, but as you said, you were being very process driven and orientated. When the outcome maybe wasn't the outcome that you were after, like you probably nailed everything in the process. You're probably able to come away going, I let you did everything I possibly could to try and get there at least. Yeah,
well, like it was like step one, it was like you want to go back to a sport that you love. Step two, are you happy in AFL? Do you want to long term go out of AFL? Step three, you need to get signed for a professional club. How are you going to do that? You haven't played the game for 8 years, an absolute long shot. So then I got signed for Melbourne Victory. Then it was like I ran out of game time there. So I was like, I need to sign with another team. Will I go try go somewhere in Europe? So it was like, there was steps along the way. And then any time I became outcome focused, like I lost the process. And I remember a time when I played my first game at Melbourne Victory, and you talk about sliding doors moments and moments in your career, but played my first game for Melbourne Victory. Didn't care, was like, there's no expectations here. Like, I shouldn't be any good today. Played well because I was relaxed. And then I remember Vera texted me to say, like, I'll watch your game next week. And there was a camp coming up for America. And like, I was in consideration for that camp. And I knew I was, and I was like in contact and all this. Played the next week, had an absolute mare. And I was like, because the pressure got to me. And I was like, because I was relaxed, and then I was like, it shouldn't have been easy to perform on day one. But then I relaxed, and I was like, we'll see. Anyway, that was the moment. And the following week got dropped, and then I was like 3 weeks missed there. And then I got on the team again, started to perform again, but then came back to Bowes, and then went to Bowes and was like, should be able to perform here. Actually, I don't know this team. I don't know the players I'm playing with. Irish soccer is different to Australian soccer. All the things you didn't plan for in your process. Because like, I did up a board with my psychologist of like things that I needed, people that I needed, distractions that were in my life, processes I needed to change, things I needed to change within myself. Like, I looked at it from a big spectrum. And then when I went to Bowes, there was so many things that I couldn't have planned for. And then again, I went process. But no, I went to outcome, and I forget about it. And then I was like, if I thought the ball would go from A to B to C, it might only go from A to B. Like, everything was unpredictable for me. And then again, couple of weeks, start to know the players, start to perform, relax, and then things start to flow again. And then was called into home-based training camp. So it was like, there was so many moments in that journey that were like, it was really exciting, and it was challenging along the way, but it obviously ended in being on standby for the World Cup, which was, and then you're kind of like, well, I just keep going and play soccer. But I felt like Collingwood had been so good to let me go that I was like, I don't want to disrespect that either. And they've done so much for me. So went back and then played last season. Then here I am.
What a story.
That's mad, like, isn't it?
But like, people that are critical probably don't see all those steps at all. They just see the whole, and they're like, this glamorous lifestyle of professional soccer. And then when I met you last year, you were saying, well, I'm training with the lads.
Yeah.
Because
the girls the Foster team. I forgot about that part.
Like, because there was no girls to train with during the day.
Yeah.
So like, they don't see all of those tough aspects to it. They just want to point at you and say, ha ha. And it's nothing to do with you at all. It's to do with them.
Yeah.
So when you know that, it must be easier to block it out. But you have probably been doing that for a while anyway. Because with the development of what we would say like a personal brand, or even like any sort of social media following, you usually get some sort of criticism. How have you dealt with that in the exact same way, is it?
Yeah, you do. You kind of realise it's a reflection of yourself. And because I've done so much work with sports psychs from a young age, and life coaches, psychologists, like, I've just kind of have someone to bounce things off. Or I'm very lucky with my family. I have people that I can talk to about it and go like, this has come up, this is how it made me feel. And then I can talk it out and kind of reason with it. And then I'm quite pragmatic about things in general. So I feel like that I would be like, oh, that's a reflection of them, because I would never feel the need to do that. And I would say that I'm pretty happy in myself. So I'm like, I'd never feel the need to put someone else down to kind of feel better. So I do feel like that. But I think what's important to me is that the people close to me think highly of me. And I think if you judge me without knowing me, like, shame on you. But if you know me, I think you would like me. And I think we would get on. I think I can get on with anyone. I don't find it hard in general to connect with people, because I generally come from a place of kind of like curiosity and understanding, and like, we're all different. So I'm like, I very much welcome anyone into my world. You know, I'll give energy, and then you generally get good energy back. But what would hurt me now is if someone close to me had something to say. Like, that would be where I'd be, you know, really hurt. But in other situations, when it's the external stuff, I'm like, oh, they don't know me really. But I think if they did, they would be okay, you know.
In relation then to what we spoke about the AFL and the AFLW and what they get right about marketing and personal branding and pushing you outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Do the clubs actually encourage you to go and do that stuff? Because it seems from the outside looking in that you do far more of that than is done here. It's the major problem with this podcast is lads saying that they're going to come on and then their manager telling them that they can't.
Yeah, it's because it's part of the game. It's part of the promotion of the game. It's like it's our duty, to be honest, to promote the game and to raise awareness, to let everyone know that there's a game on this weekend so that we get more attendance, so that younger people can see the game, so that they can start to want to be, can't see, can't be, all that stuff. So, and it's like there's a certain amount of like things we have to do within a year. It's in our contracts. And then the club would also message and go, hey, you've a radio interview at 7:00 tomorrow morning or whatever. And like, that's just, and then it's a media protocol. So it is a protocol really. And
does it grow the game?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think the girls are becoming much more recognisable now in Melbourne. So I think it definitely helps. And yeah, it grows the club's brand, it grows the AFLW brand, and then also the personal brand for life after sport. So that's the way to think of it. It's like the big picture of it all.
Is that even more necessary in female sport, do you think?
What part?
To put yourself out there.
It's a fine balance because I am coming from an Irish perspective. Like, I kind of go, it feels like a bit of a distraction, but that's only because that's the information I've been fed all my life. You know what I mean? I'm like, is it though? Or am I just viewing it like this? Because like, you hear people talking about it in Australia, like, oh, that's great for your brand. And I'm like, why are you talking about brand?
That's alien over here. Like,
I don't even think of that. That's great.
You need to be thinking about this match in 2 weeks' time. You can't go and talk to someone. That's the way it is here.
Literally.
He played shit today because he did that interview 2 weeks ago.
Literally. Whereas no, it would never be viewed like that.
Yeah. Look at your man here. Who do you think he is? That sort of thing.
Would you from your perspective then, would you love that? Like,
would you love
because
what?
You're doing it anyway.
Well, that's I suppose an element of it. Like we were sort of chatting about, even from like a career standpoint, like that's probably one of the big things that's keeping me from going traveling or going somewhere else and experience something, because with the nature of coaching GAA players, the bigger profile you have in GAA, generally it's going to help your brand. It's going to get more eyes on you, potentially help the business too. So yeah, I suppose like if there is an opportunity to go and speak to someone or do an article or do something, like you're going for it. Like, so, but you're saying there, like, does it help the sport? Like, definitely, 100% it helps the sport. Like, we're comfortable, maybe more so in the men's game because there's maybe more games on TV. I think maybe it's done for them to an extent. I know from chatting to different ladies and stuff, they would have to, I think, do a lot more, and it's obviously getting better and it's improving for the better. But as we've been sort of chatting about too, I think women are generally more open-minded to speaking too. I think
they know that if the game is going to be on equal footing, whether it is or it needs to be, or if it ever is going to be, there's a need that they've got to be seen to be doing at least the same amount, if not more, than what the men are doing to get the eyes on the sport. Because as you just said, they're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because every men's game, well, we won't get into the GAA goal controversy, but most of them are on TV, whereas you might have, like, if you're lucky, 2 women's football matches on the weekend on TG Car.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how can young girls see it happening for them if they can't see it on TV and they can't see it in the media?
Yeah.
Like with social media too, it's so accessible. Like straight away there, you have a platform to put yourself out there, people to get to know you. Even like we were chatting about the YouTube clips you see with AFL clubs, and it's players going in talking through their day and all that sort of crack. Like you probably see someone on social media, and if they're active on it, you probably feel like you know them before you've even met them. And then, you know, when you do get a conversation, you probably see, right, this is just a normal person. If I'm thinking of myself growing up as a young player, looking up to a player, it's like, this is like a normal person growing up. He's so much similarities here, and that would drive you on to try and push on another level. Like, so I think using social media when it's used in the right way, like, can be massive, and even stuff like this can be can be beneficial. Like, but
Hopefully we can keep it going.
if people keep on showing up.
Yeah. Well, Sarah did show up.
Sure it is.
Just about. Better late than ever.
Last question. International rules series. Ireland versus
Yes.
Australia.
Yeah.
What are the chances of a victory there, do you reckon? And should it be played in Australia one year and then in Ireland the next?
Oh, definitely. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it being played in Ireland.
Croke Park.
Because I just loved when I brought over my Australian friends how much they loved Ireland. And it just made me so proud of, like, I suppose what we're about and like the culture and the history even with Ireland. It's just like, it's so different to Australia. So I'd love to see them all come over and like actually like show them around properly. Because when the girls came over, they were like, now we understand why you are the way you are. It all makes sense now. And I was like, that's all I want. I just want understanding. I want you to understand the way we are. So I'd love that. But I think it'll be such a good spectacle. And sorry to all my Australian friends, but I back the Irish in all day, every day. That's just it.
Well, we're backing you as well. Sarah, thanks a million for coming on. Great conversation and glad you made it here just about on time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Happy days. Cheers.